some luck. This was bad luck. And this was like a little bit of haunting on Jerry's end for his inappropriate but unintentional inappropriate behavior. It costed him some hard to explain, but the Pony Remark was a pretty good episode. Again, another more so just one story based episode. Not much really going on with George, who was just basically just like just had his stories more so secondary to Jerry's one of Jerry's like subplots of the story, which was his softball team advancing to the championship. We also have Elaine, who more so was just like a tag along with Jerry in the stories. The only other story that was really in this episode was Kramer having this bet with Jerry, because Kramer had this idea of putting more levels in his apartment. And then Jerry was bet with Kramer, which also is one of the first episodes that reveals that Kramer has a little bit of a gambling addiction. Jerry bets Kramer that he's not going to be able to make it happen, or he's not going to be able to do it. And Kramer's like, okay, deal's on. But then later in the episode, Kramer never even attempted to make the levels. Decides, nah, I'm not going to do it. And Jerry's like, okay, pay up. But Kramer's like, no, I'm not paying up. He goes, but it's a bet. He goes, I know, but I did not attempt to make the levels. So since Kramer didn't attempt to actually build them, then he claims that there's nothing to pay back. So that's just one of those little things, that's something that Kramer just bets, just weasels out of his crazy ideas. But the main story, of course, with the Pony Remark, comes with a story about Jerry's parents, Helen and Morty Seinfeld, who have come into town for a 50th anniversary dinner with some distant relatives. I think it was Helen Seinfeld's cousins, Isaac and Manya. Second cousins, actually, from the notes I read here. Jerry doesn't really know, never really knew Manya or Isaac, though. And he wasn't crazy about going. So then he asks, when his mom basically, begs him to come, he also has Elaine come with him as like more like a social buffer. Of course, one thing that was kind of like a little humorous was during that dinner scene, Elaine sat. They had like a you never have you have to add on like an extra table or whatnot to like a long dinner table. Like if you have like people for Thanksgiving, you add on like additional tables for people to sit at. Well, they add on like a smaller like card table basically. And Elaine sat in like the lower table, kind of like she's like the little kid at the party, basically. But during the dinner, Jerry makes this remark. I mean, obviously, he was trying to make conversation to be included, even though anything that he was saying, it just seemed to like not sit well with Manya. She was very, sharp-tongued from what it seemed. But then Jerry makes this remark about that he hated anyone who ever had a pony. And Manya, who was from Poland, she like freaks out. She's like, I had the pony. My sister had pony. My cousin had pony. We all love ponies. What's wrong with that? And then, of course, Jerry, again, realized that he didn't mean to offend anyone. But, again, just out of the blue, it's like, who would, be upset about a pony? Who he thought in his inner circle wouldn't have a pony? Would have a pony. As he thought it was just out of his loop, like out of his time. As he even said, like, like ponies aren't really, his culture or his time. So he tried to apologize, but this didn't work. And Anya, I'm sorry, I knew it. Manya got angry and got up and left. And everybody's looking at Jerry like he did something wrong. He's like, I didn't know she had a pony. Like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. So then, the other story was with Jerry. Before we get to the following action from this dinner table party was, and then the only part really like George was involved in this episode, which was Jerry's softball team that George was a part of won the championship. Got to the championship game, which was scheduled for later that week at like 2:45 game. And George, of course, was on the team. And Jerry apparently had been playing very good and was a big part in them getting to the championship get into the championship match. Well, I think it was the next day or so, whenever Jerry's parents were heading to the airport getting ready to leave, Jerry receives a call from, also, first appearance of in this episode, forgot to mention that. This episode was also the first appearance of Len Lesser, who played Uncle Leo. And of course, another reason why Jerry took Elaine to the dinner was because he didn't want to sit next to Uncle Leo. As Uncle Leo was like a guy who just, one of the guys that just grabs your arm, pulls you in, just wants to talk about, just only wants to talk about what he wants to talk about, basically. Which, of course, would annoy Jerry is the fact that all Uncle Leo would talk about is his son, Jerry's cousin, Jeffrey, and his how he works for Park Recreations and whatnot, or something like that, or how he gets moved around different parks or whatnot. He was in Central Park, and I think during that episode he got moved to Riverside Park, and Jerry was just just like fed up and annoyed with it. But as Jerry's parents were heading to a cab to leave, Jerry gets a call from Uncle Leo. Manya died. Manya died! Which is how the first half of the episode ends, actually, before it goes to commercial break, is Manya! Mom, Dad, don't get in the cab! Manya died! Manya died! But, they come back in, and of course, they're questioning again, who called you, Uncle Leo? I wonder what happened. I mean, she said she was doing very well from this and that, and then she goes, unless, and looks at Jerry, and Jerry's like, What, you think my Pony Remark was the one who killed her? I'm not just saying, but it's like, they're not saying, but they're thinking that Jerry freaking killed this woman over a Pony Remark. And here's the thing, there came some moments in Seinfeld where sometimes be more so sad and somber. They had to find, in a non-offensive way, some type of humor out of it. Like George's heartless reaction whenever he found out that Susan died, yet the next day he's on the phone with Marissa Tomei trying to get a date, and he goes, yeah, well, the funeral's tomorrow, but I'm free afterwards. Like, no big deal. But Jerry, this one, out of bad luck, a woman he unintentionally insults dies the day after, and everybody's joking, saying that, Jerry probably, insulted, or probably that's what happened. Jerry's like, no, it can't be. But, anyway, so, not too long after, Uncle Leo calls back and says the funeral is, I forgot what day of the week, I think it was Thursday at 10 a.m. And then, or at 2 o'clock. And then Jerry goes, oh crap, but that's a softball game championship. For a softball game, as you talked about earlier. But then, of course, he went he met Elaine and George at Monk's, and he's contemplating over what to do because, he doesn't want to miss the game, of course, but he does feel bad, and he feels like, for the remark he made. So eventually he feels guilty, he gives in, he goes to the funeral, he's like, I'm missing the game, he doesn't want to miss it, but he really feels bad. And of course, during the funeral itself, they even mentioned that Manya had a pony. And of course, it was all the things ran off, all she did, this and that, and also it's been told she had a pony. And Jerry's like, oh gosh, come on, seriously? Ah, man. But anyways, afterwards, Jerry comes out and he apologizes to Isaac, who says that, oh, don't worry, she forgot all about that. She was more upset about the potato salad. Elaine also actually was looking for a new apartment. Again, for the first few seasons, she obviously was trying to, first few episodes, I think there was an episode she almost, which is coming up soon, I think it is, she almost moved into Jerry's building, but Elaine also wants to get out of her apartment because she's tired of her roommate. And, basically she wants to take Isaac's apartment because he plans on moving to Phoenix. And after a few times when Elaine's trying to ask him, what about the apartment? Isaac, starts talking about something else. Obviously, old and, not quite having all this, all of his things put together. Finally he goes, oh, the apartment! Cousin Jeffrey's taking the apartment! This is as Uncle Leo's pulling Jerry to the side and telling Jerry about how Jeffrey's being moved to, Riverside Park now as his newest assignment or whatnot. And of course, which really bums out Elaine that out of bad luck again, it has to be Cousin Jeffrey, the one that everybody hypes up. Cousin Jeffrey. But then there came a little bit of glimmer of hope for Jerry also. Well, first off, Isaac says that Manya forgot about the Pony Remark, even though people are not letting Jerry down, saying that, oh, your remark is what killed her. It's like, no. But he still felt bad. But a little glimmer of hope comes because then it starts raining, as it's around the time the start of the softball game, which is 2:45. And Jerry's excited. It's like, it's raining. The game's been postponed. We'll play tomorrow. Think it all fine and dandy's good. The game gets made up. And, the following day, they lost the championship. And apparently Jerry played really bad. And they're in monks, and again, they're being told, oh, maybe Manya had a hex on him, and Jerry's just like, oh, dear Lord. Which is how the episode ends. Like I said, you talk about saying the wrong thing at the wrong time, unintentionally, not even knowing. That's basically what happened to Jerry in this episode. It sucked, but again, they succeeded in making it funny. Another fun fact about this episode. This was also the first episode, I already said before, it was the first episode of Len Lesser, who played Uncle Leo. But this was also the first episode that Barney Martin played Morty Seinfeld. Because remember, in The Stakeout, it was played by Philip Bruntz. Which I still start to wonder now. It was just 1 year later. Why didn't they reshoot the scenes? Well, then again, the show wasn't in syndication yet, or whatever it was called. So I guess at the time they didn't have the option really to reshoot scenes, because again, I don't think it got brought up again until season 4, when was season 4 or was it season 5? Season 4 or 5, 1 to 2, when Frank Costanza first appeared. And they had someone else playing Frank Costanza at first, was John Randolph, and then they reshot the scenes the following season after John Randolph was replaced by Jerry Stiller. But at the time, they thought about going back and maybe reshooting those scenes with Jerry and Morty from The Stakeout. But at the time, they thought, oh, it had been too long, because they had already aged and whatnot, so it was too late for that. But either if it wasn't in syndication yet, or they just didn't think the show was going to seriously get picked up any longer, even though that's kind of false, because the whole thing with, well, I don't know, I feel like it just didn't come to their minds at the time, because there was an incident where a voiceover was replaced towards the end of season 2, which we'll talk about that, when we get to the end of season 2, and they were able to do that, so it might have just not crossed their minds that, hey, we can replace, go back and reshoot those scenes with Barney Martin as Morty Seinfeld instead of Philip Bruntz. But yeah, there's that as well. But that does it, guys. That's the Pony Remark. A pretty good episode, I gotta say. I'd say even though it's a one-story episode, a little bit better, I'd say, than the Ex-Girlfriend. The Ex-Girlfriend, it was good, but it wasn't the most standout story, I'd say. It was simple and effective, but I don't think it was as as entertaining as the Pony Remark. Next episode, though, is The Busboy. We'll get to that next. That was also kind of like a writing turning point for the series. We'll talk about that, of course, when we get to the next episode. But guys, again, as always, what are your thoughts on the Pony Remark episode of Seinfeld? Make sure your thoughts down in the comment section below. Slap a like on the video. Subscribe. More content to come on my channel. Follow me on Twitter at DemandAir93. Till then, guys, I'm checking out. I'll see you all later. Peace out, everybody.